Talking about the F1 generation Cherokee Purple cocktail tomato hybrid. And of course, here's the progression I showed in the last video. And this tomato plant in the front is that F1 generation hybrid between the Cherokee Purple and the cocktail tomato. A cocktail tomato is basically a big cherry tomato. So it's round, red. Well, I guess they're not always red, but they're round and small and sweet. But yeah, it obviously has pointier leaves than the grape tomato Cherokee Purple hybrid, the F2, which has more rounded leaves. And it's produced a good bit, and I'll show you the results. So, I started off with one plant. Well, I planted 3, but I only needed 1. So, what I did was just planted the 1 and kind of let the other 2 die. And here's the fruit it bore, and they were getting pretty big. I mean, I didn't expect them to get that big because usually the larger genes, I guess you could say, or the larger traits are typically recessive. But that just tells me that the F2 generation could be a good bit bigger. And then with the 2 that I left to die, I thought, I'll just stick them in the ground. So I put them in the ground in my neighbor's yard. I take care of their yard. And they actually grew pretty decently. And this one right here is a fasciated bloom, which means that it's 2 flowers stuck together, or more. This one was actually 3, but you can only see two of the stigmas. I think, yeah, you can see kind of the third one in here smashed between these 2. But I don't really know what causes this to happen, but I know some tomato varieties are more susceptible to it. And of course, the Cherokee Purple, you see it a lot, and with that cocktail tomato, I did have one in the pure cocktail tomato, so I guess I should have expected it. And here's just a closer look. I mean, it doesn't really help, I guess, but it's just interesting to see. It has a lot of the petals too. Here's the tomato after maybe a week or so, and you can already see it kind of looks like 2 tomatoes stuck together because it really was 2 defined stigmas versus them being closer together and looking more like one really big stigma. Also, I came back from vacation, or I guess it was kind of a vacation for me, but I came back and the tomatoes in my neighbor's yard were full. I mean, I didn't expect this. I didn't trellis it up on anything. I just let it do its own thing. And I came back and it was eaten up by bugs. You can still see some of the leaves down here have bites from caterpillars, and it was full of caterpillars. I got rid of a lot of leaves and a lot of caterpillars. But then I took a picture of it, and you can see it's typically not recommended that you do this with your tomato plants, because if the tomato sits on the ground, bugs will get in the tomato and eat it up, and I did have that problem with a few of them. You can see I secured this one right here, and this is actually the fasciated bloom. And here you go. You have the tomato that was from the fasciated bloom, and it kind of looks like 2 tomatoes stuck together. Weird looking. And here's the tomato when it was ripe. It was 10 ounces, so a bit under a pound. And I cut it up, and it looked nice. It looked well. And that was the only one I cut open. But a lot of these more round ones you see only had 3 or 4 locules, which is very unusual for a large tomato. And I'll be keeping seeds and planting an F2 generation, which should hopefully be more interesting. Of course, these are red. These show all of the dominant traits, basically. They're red, they're pretty round, they're medium size, I'd say. I think they're large, but they're about medium. And next generation, I should see the more interesting traits, and I'll definitely post a video on that. That'll be more worthwhile. And that's about it.